Today we're checking out the Evox 12 column array speakers from RCF. This is a column array speaker setup with a 15-inch subwoofer on the bottom and 8 4-inch drivers on the top. It's a great sounding speaker and it has a couple of really smart design options, such as the subwoofer has built-in handle and wheels so that you can move it around easily, and the top actually can swivel and angle, which is actually pretty rare in almost all other column array speaker setups. I used this system at 3 different shows recently. I'm going to share my experience with you, and we're going to go over it in detail so you can see if this system is right for you and your needs. Just FYI, RCF also has the J8 model, which has a 12-inch subwoofer on the bottom and less speakers on the top. And they also have the J-Mix 8, which has a built-in 8-channel mixer. In this video, I'm mostly going to cover the Evox 12, but just be aware that there are other models as well. I've had a good number of comments on this channel from people saying that they really love these speakers. So when the opportunity came up with Sweetwater for me to review these speakers, I agreed. So many thanks to the subscribers and viewers who commented and told me to check out these speakers. And also many thanks to Sweetwater for sending these over and for sponsoring the video. Just as always, all the opinions in this video are my own, and I'm going to go over it in detail so you can see if this is right for you and your live music needs. And if you do decide that these are right for you, I will have purchase links of where you can purchase these from Sweetwater down below in the description. And whether or not, if you do decide if these are right for you and your needs, be sure to check out Sweetwater and especially check out their deals page. They have a ton of great deals on gear for live sound, studio, lighting, guitars, wireless, all the stuff that you need as a live musician. And the deals page always has great deal options. You can check out their deals page by using the QR code on your screen or the link down below in the description. Once again, many thanks to Sweetwater for sending these over and for sponsoring the video. That's enough of the intro. Consider subscribing if you're not already subscribed, and let's check out the RCF Evox 12 column array speaker system. So there are 3 main pieces. There's the subwoofer, there's the speaker on top, and there's a pole to connect the 2 of them. The setup is really easy. On the top of the subwoofer, there's a hole. You're going to screw the pole in right there, and then you place the speaker on top of the pole. And then to connect the 2 of them together, you connect the provided speak-on cable from the back of the subwoofer into the speaker. Really, really simple. And the pole actually has these things which you can actually attach the cable to, which is really nice for like cable management, and it just makes it look nice because you can't see the cables from the front, which is really cool. So after that, plug it in, power it up, and you're ready to go. Super easy. Just don't be like me at the first show that I used this at and wrap the cable around the pole because I didn't realize that it had the cable connectors. But like I mentioned, you can see that the top can be angled, so it doesn't have to go exactly forward the exact same way that your subwoofer is facing, which is definitely different than most column array speaker setups. So as far as making connections for getting this set up, you have an XLR port here in the back of the subwoofer for connecting this to your mixer. Almost everyone using this speaker system is going to use it with an external mixer, so plug this in to the main outputs of your mixer. And then here's your volume knob to set the level. And honestly, that's pretty much it, and 95% of people who use these speakers are basically going to use that. Plug it in and set your level. One of the comments that someone left on one of my videos, someone said, "I love the Evox 12. It's just a great sounding speaker with no bells and whistles." It was something along those lines, and honestly, I think that's a perfect way to describe this. I might actually use that as the title of this video. Great sounding speaker, plug it in, and go. However, there are a few more features that you might use. There is a mic line switch. 99% of people using this are going to have it set to line. If you don't know the difference between the 2, I do have a video going over that, but almost everyone's going to want it set to line. You do have XLR or 1/4-inch outputs if you want to route this to another speaker. And I'm really glad they included this because at the 3rd show, this actually saved the show for me. I'll go over that a little bit later. And then you do have this single button where you can leave the subwoofer flat or you can boost the subwoofer in the low frequencies. And then you do get 3 different lights, one for when the power's on, one for when it's getting an audio signal, and one for peaking or limiting. So again, that's it. There's no EQ, there's no menu diving, there's no Bluetooth. You just plug it in, set your level, choose if you want a bass boost or not, and go. FYI, that bass boost, in the manual it says only use this at low volumes. I actually really like it with the bass boost on, so just letting you know that I have used it with it boosted and without it boosted, and I'll go over that a little bit in the experience section of this video, but I actually like it engaged. So this speaker in particular is obviously meant for a band who has an external mixer, and they're going to plug all their instruments into the mixer and then route that to these speakers. If you're looking for a speaker that has like a built-in mixer and stuff like that, remember that RCF does have the J-Mix 8, which has an 8-channel mixer built into it. Check that out if that's what you're interested in and that suits your needs better. This one is definitely designed to be used with an external mixer. Plug everything in, do all of your EQ and reverb and settings and stuff like that in the mixer, and then you route your mixer to these speakers and the speaker sounds great. Keep it very simple. That's what it's designed for. The design of the subwoofer is great. It has handles on both sides of the subwoofer as well as on the top, which is great for carrying it around or moving it where you need to. And actually, the icing on the cake is that it has this handle right here that comes out, and the subwoofer actually has wheels already on it on the bottom. So you just tilt it and it has wheels on it to make it super easy to transport around. I really, really love that about this system. Made it unbelievably easy for load in or just moving the speaker around when you need it. You also do have the option to get a cover for the subwoofer so you can protect the sub during transportation. And it does have flaps that open so that you can use all of the handles. And it does have an opening right here on top so that the handle can come out and you can still wheel it around with a cover on it. And there is also a case for the tops and the pole. Speaker goes in here. And on the side pouch, it's big enough to fit the pole as well as the power cable and as well as the speaker cable. It is a hair tight, I've found, with the two cables and the pole in there, but it does fit and it makes it easy to transport. If you do want those cases, Sweetwater does sell those as well, which brings me to the pricing of these units. The Evox 12 column array speaker is $2,499 each, and it does come in either black or white, and you can get the case and cover for $249 each. If you are looking at the smaller one, the Evox J8, that one is $999 each. The main specs about this speaker: the frequency response is 40 Hz up to 20 kHz. Max SPL is 130 decibels. The coverage is 90 degrees horizontal and 30 degrees vertical. And the power is 700 watts RMS and 1400 watts peak. Again, if you decide that this system is right for you, there will be purchase links to purchase from Sweetwater down below in the description. But now let's go over my experience with using these speakers. I used it at 3 different shows recently, and spoiler alert, it worked great at all of them. I did learn a couple of things at each different show, so I'm going to go over that. So the first show was a pretty large outdoor event, and this was a show that I had to push them the hardest for sure. They definitely got the job done, but this is about the max I would go with a set of speakers like these, about this much coverage. You can see it was an outdoor event and the grassy area was kind of where people were. But this was about as far as I would push these speakers for this kind of coverage. But this system definitely got the job done. I do have to go off on a side rant here just for a minute. Every time I've reviewed a column array speaker setup, which I personally love, I just love column array speakers, the ease of setup, they look nice, they sound great, the dispersion is great. I'm just a fan. But every time I review these types of speakers, there's always the Reddit sound guys who show up and tell me that you can't use column array speakers for more than 50 people. The dispersion and the throw isn't enough, or whatever they're complaining about today. And when I say Reddit sound guys, I'm talking about the people who spend all day just telling people on the internet, you can't do anything this way, and they spend their time doing that instead of actually going out and gigging. For this show, the speakers worked well and they got the job done. For an outdoor show like this, would it have been nicer to have a larger PA, likely a line array, and larger subwoofers? Probably, and I think even RCF would agree with that. However, did this get the job done? Yes, it absolutely did. You could see people all the way in the back singing along. I know as a musician that the sound isn't going to sound the exact same that far back. However, we have to remember that us as musicians are way more picky than the average listeners. But this is what they had for the budget. This is what worked. And again, got the job done. People had a good time, and the people who booked us were very happy. That's ultimately what counts. Don't listen to the Reddit sound guys. So I just had to get that little rant out of the way. But the speakers worked great at this one. There was one thing that I noticed. So this was an outdoor event and the surface was a little bit uneven at this event. So you remember how I talked about how the top can swivel? You can angle it in whichever direction that you want, which is a nice feature. However, at this show, it actually was kind of a downside because they would turn as they were sitting there. So as I was sound checking, I noticed that the speakers would start to turn actually. One of them turned just a little bit, and then the other speaker, as you can see from the footage, it was actually turned almost all the way to the side. So that is the main gripe that I have with this system. It's nice that you can swivel them and angle them in whichever way you want, but it's also a pain because there's no way to lock them in place. I think that's the biggest mistake of this system. I'm honestly not sure how they didn't realize this, like with testing and stuff like that. There should be some sort of screw in the back or something that you can use to lock these in place. Angle them the way you want and then lock them in place. My solution was to gaff it down. It definitely worked. It kept it from going as far as it was, but it still would tilt at least a little bit, as you can see from the footage. This was at the end of the night. Not a deal breaker, just should have been something that they figured out while they were testing the speaker system. I usually try to get footage from the show. The only footage that I was able to get from this show was this one.
Give it up for Mr. Scott, you on the top.
and that was it. It's obviously really tough to get footage while you're playing, but at the next two shows, I made sure to get more footage. The next two shows were with my band 90% 90s. I want to say many thanks to Larissa, our stage manager, for always dealing with my annoying requests to get this footage for the shows, so thank you, Larissa, for grabbing this footage. But the second show that we did was for a wedding. This was a much smaller room than the first gig, but it definitely filled up the room great. I just didn't have to push them as hard as I did at that first show. Since this was the second show, I wanted to see if there was an easy way to keep the speakers from swiveling. I tried to gaff it down in multiple different ways to hold it in place. I tried to do like a double-sided thing or put a little tape on the top. None of it really worked. You couldn't really place the speaker back on. So again, I just wish it just had like a screw or something like that. But at this gig, it was on a flat surface and I didn't even have to worry about it. It stayed in place all night. Something that was good for this gig, since it was a wedding gig, we had to play, kind of a more mellow set for cocktail hour. And then we had to play reception dance music at the end. Something was actually really nice about this is that during the cocktail, that boost button for the sub, I left that on flat because I didn't need a whole ton of bass for something chill like that. But when reception started, it was nice just to say, hey, add some more bass to give it more of that energy for a dance type set. So it's actually really cool that they have that as an option, and that actually worked out really great, especially for doing a mellow set followed by a heavier set. And my singer, Anthony, agreed. He really liked the way that it sounds. He's very particular about his sub and his bass frequencies, and he likes the way that it sounds with it boosted as well. Here's a little footage that we got. I say this every time I review a speaker. To hear a speaker, YouTube is not going to give you an accurate representation of it, especially like phone footage. You have to hear it live, but I'm just going to show you how it sounds so you can hear kind of the balance of it. We did try using a different camera that had probably better mics, at least for picking up the sound. The video quality was definitely a lot worse, but the audio is the important part of this test. But here's some footage so you can hear how it sounds. The third show was a bar gig with the same band, 90% 90s. I just did it this weekend. At this show, it was actually really nice to be able to angle that speaker because the way that the speakers had to be placed, it was actually really nice just to tilt it just slightly so it kind of filled up the room based on where we had to set up. So being able to swivel has its pros and has its cons. Something that happened at this gig is that on my mixer, the left output actually died. We run everything in mono anyways, but I only had the right output from my speaker. So what I did was I ran that to one of the speakers and then took an XLR from the output and daisy chained that to the other speaker. So I love that it has the option to do an XLR output. Very nice that it's included, especially for a situation like this. When we started, I looked to Larissa to see if the sound was great. This was exactly what happened. She looked at me and she goes, "They sound great. Don't change a thing." So that was good to hear. The speakers really do sound fantastic. Here's a little footage. Man, these speakers sound fantastic. They really do. So, is it right for you? I do a lot of different reviews on my channel about different stuff for live musicians. Speakers tend to be the thing that is the biggest variety because of the size of places that you're playing. Because I know that 90% 90s, we're a three-piece. We have the bass and the backing tracks with this band. Sometimes we have a live bass player. Most of the time we don't. We're not changing it. I promise if you leave a comment telling me to get a real bass player, we're not changing our mind. Some people are like, well, will this work with, a 7-piece band? It's like, well, yeah, I don't see why this wouldn't work with a full band, especially having like a 15-inch subwoofer. It's mostly how big of a place you need to cover and how many people are going to be there. So the best way to figure that out, there's so many different ways to figure out if a speaker is right for you, but keeping it as simple as possible, looking at SPL for how loud it gets, and then look at the frequency response to see how much of that low end you truly need. So look at SPL to figure out how loud the system gets. The higher the number, the louder it'll get, and the more it will fill in a room. Again, I'm keeping this very, very basic. There's more things to think about, but SPL is the main thing to look into. And with frequency response, it's mostly the first number, the lowest number, how low are the subs able to go, and that is just your preference on how much low end you want. Do you want that super low end gut punch subwoofer, or do you want it to just sound nice for the kick drum and the bass guitar? For this system, the SPL is 130 decibels, and then the frequency response is 40 hertz up to 20 kilohertz. Is that right for you? Those are the main things to think about. I showed you examples of how I used it with my band, and hopefully that's enough to show you how I used it, and you can decide if it's right for you and your need. Some people will not be comfortable pushing this over 200 people. Some people will try to push it further than that. Anywhere from 100 to 400 people, I think this would be great. 400 would be pushing it, but I was able to do that with the first show. Look at the SPL for how loud it gets. Look at the frequency response for how low the subs go, and then also look at the features to see if it's something that you want. The wheels for the sub is great. The ability to swivel is great. Obviously, if you need like a speaker with a built-in mixer, this isn't for you. But if you use an external mixer, then it is a good system for you. There's the Evox 8 that has a 12-inch subwoofer. They have the JMix 8, which has the built-in mixer. Side note, if anyone knows the answer to this, let me know. I would really love to just ask the RCF marketing department why the Evox 8 has a 12-inch subwoofer, but then the Evox 12 has a 15-inch subwoofer. Shouldn't it be the Evox 12 has a 12 and the Evox 15 has a 15? Just kind of a weird thing, because that confused me a little bit when I was looking into these. Any improvements I can think of? A way to lock it in so that it doesn't swivel is the main thing that I would love to see with this system. I do wish it had Bluetooth. I know not everyone's going to use that. I use Bluetooth to play music when we take breaks. It's not the end of the world. I just now have to plug into my mixer. Definitely not a deal breaker, but Bluetooth is nice for me personally, but again, is it right for you? And then one thing I want you to be aware of, this is a weird thing to say, but the boxing, they have the really giant staples. This is such a weird thing to mention, but I'm going to put this in the video. They have the really thick staples, not on just like the bottom and the sides, but over the top, and they put tape over it so you can't see it. So when you're opening the boxes of these, don't try to pry them open. I did that and I cut the crap out of my hand. Like it dug into my hand. Just watch it as you're doing that. I don't even know if this is something to complain about. It's more just watch that they do this. If it keeps someone else from getting their hands cut up from the staples, I'm keeping it in the video. And the last thing that I'll say about a very common question that I get when reviewing speakers is, does this one sound the best? Does this sound better than insert other company here? Does this sound better than other speaker company here? The thing that I found is that tone is so subjective to preference. What some people might call clarity, other people will think as too harsh. What some people will describe as good low end, other people will describe as muddy. Tone is such a subjective thing. For these speakers, I can say that they truly do sound fantastic. I love the way these speakers sound, and I'm able to get a good mix out of them. Good low end, good top end, everything sounded great with these speakers. Tone is subjective, but I can tell you as someone who has used these speakers, I'm definitely a fan of how they sound. There's a very nice balance with these speakers. Thank you to everyone who commented and told me to check these out. I definitely agree they're a great sounding speaker, and thank you all for suggesting it. And also many thanks to Sweetwater for sponsoring the video and sending these over. Don't forget, I'll have links to purchase from Sweetwater down below in the description, and I'll also have a link to the Sweetwater deals page if you want to check that out as well. If you guys enjoyed the video, do me a favor and hit the thumbs up and consider subscribing if you want to see more videos like this in the future. I did just release a video recently about building an in-ear monitor rack. I did it on what's the most affordable in-ear monitor rack that you can set up, but I also designed it around that I give you other options if you want to expand on it. So especially with this Evox system that you have to use a separate mixer with it, that might be a video worth checking out. And also you can check out my most recent video by clicking the link on your screen now. Thank you guys again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any other cool gear you want me to check out, please leave them as a comment down below. This video came together from some of your suggestions, so I do appreciate when you guys do that. Also follow me on my social media pages at Scott Yule Music. Thank you guys again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.